Hello students, I am Dr. M. Bhushanam, Assistant Professor in Zoology, Maharani Science College for Women, Bangalore. I first of all welcome you all to my class. Hope all of you are safe and fine at home during this pandemic time. Well students, today we shall understand a topic of your syllabus, that is Unit 3, 3.1 General Characteristics of phylum Platyhelminthes, its classification up to classes with suitable examples. The main objectives of the study is to understand the unique features related to the phylum Platyhelminthes and its diversity to be as flatworms in the given habitat. For this, the content includes general characters of the phylum Platyhelminthes and classification up to classes with examples. Well students, as you all know, our Mother Earth is made up of varieties of living and non-living things. All living organisms is categorized as biotic factors, which includes both microscopic and macroscopic organisms. It was scientist by name Carl Linnaeus who proposed a two-kingdom classification of these living organisms. According to him, there are two kingdoms. One is kingdom Plantae, the other one is kingdom Animalia. Kingdom Plantae is further studied by a specialized branch called as taxonomy or systematics, and it was also given by Carolus Linnaeus, and hence he is popularly known as the father of systematics. Students, later it was Ernst Haeckel who proposed the next type of classification of kingdom of living organisms, which we call it as a three-kingdom classification, where along with the kingdoms Plantae and Animalia, he included a new kingdom called as Protista. This kingdom includes all eukaryotic microscopic organisms. In later days, it was W.H. Whitaker who proposed five-kingdom classification. According to him, along with kingdom Plantae, kingdom Animalia and kingdom Protista, he included two more kingdoms to it, which includes kingdom Mycota, that categorizes the organisms of fungi, and kingdom Monera. Now, this five-kingdom classification is what majorly we all are following. Well students, whether it is two-kingdom classification, three-kingdom classification or five-kingdom classification, we find one common kingdom is the Animalia. We need to know something related to this particular classification of kingdom Animalia as a prerequisite. So this forms the basis actually for your syllabus. Now, let us understand the kingdom Animalia. Kingdom Animalia includes varieties of animals varying the sizes of small to large. This group of organisms exhibit self-movement, which we call it as locomotion. And these organisms also have a well-developed sensory reception activities. These groups of animals can be broadly classified or categorized into two groups. This is based on the presence and absence of the backbone. Some animals will have the backbone, some doesn't have. I repeat, some animals will have the backbone, some doesn't have. The group of animals that have the presence of backbone are called as vertebrates or chordates. The other group of animals that do not have a backbone are called as invertebrates or non-chordates. Students, remember the title of your paper is Non-Chordata 1, which means non-chordates are the groups of organisms which are going to study that doesn't have a backbone. You might have studied the examples like amoeba, then paramecium, cycon, hydra, tapeworm, earthworm, and varieties of insects, snails, starfish, etc. These are the group of organisms which doesn't have a backbone and hence are called as invertebrates. For this semester, as I said you before, you will be studying a part of this non-chordates or invertebrates. To understand exactly the position of the non-chordates that we are going to understand today, here is the slide which depicts which shows the actual classification of kingdom Animalia. We know that all animals of kingdom Animalia are broadly classified into two subkingdoms. This is based on the characteristic feature called as cellularity. As we know, living organisms are made up of cells, and this cellularity you doesn't find in non-living things. So whenever you call an organism as living, their body is made up of cells. So that is what exactly it refers here. So cellularity is the character based on which we are dividing kingdom Animalia into two groups, subkingdom Protozoa and subkingdom Metazoa. What are these subkingdom Protozoa referring to? They are acellular or unicellular group of organisms. A here refers to absence. Cellular refers to multicellular or many number of cells. So if the body of an organism is made up of many number of cells, then you can call or categorize those animals as cellular organisms. If you doesn't find this organization of multicellularity, you call them as acellular, absence of cellularity, and they are hence called as unicellular. Otherwise refers to this organism's body is made up of single cell. So all single-celled organisms of animal group come under this subkingdom of unicellular organisms. It includes only one phylum, which we call it as Protozoa. As you know, examples for this phylum is amoeba, then paramecium, euglena, etc. Then we have the second group of organisms called as subkingdom Metazoa. It includes all multicellular organisms. So animals other than protozoans falls under the category called as subkingdom Metazoa. These metazoans are made up, their body is made up of many number of cells. So multicellular body they have. So this group of organisms of metazoans are further classified into two groups based on the character called as body grade of organization. So we are introduced with a new terminology, body grade. When we look at this particular concept of body grade of organization, it refers to how the body of an organism is made with. Okay, so it is multicellular, no doubt, but how is their body is made with? So that character we call it as body grade of organization. So the group of metazoans or subkingdom metazoa is further divided into two groups, namely parazoans and eumetazoans. Para means partial, zoa means animals. We know that animals that keeps moving on their own or self-movement or locomotion fall under the category of Animalia. Then why do we call them as parazoans or partial animals? These animals in their larval stages will have, or in their early stages of development will have locomotion, but in their adult stage they lack the locomotion because in the adult stage they attach to a substratum very firmly. So they become sessile, they become sedentary. They cannot move. So such group of organisms fall under the category called as parazoans. So it includes the phylum Porifera, sponges. You might have learnt in your lower classes. So this is the group of organisms which we call it as parazoans. Then we have understood that this classification is based on the body grade. So body organization. So how is the body organization in parazoans? It is called as cellular grade of body organization. So what does it mean? Cellular, as we understood, many number of cells. So many number of cells together contributes for the body organization of these animals. So simply there are different kinds of cells which are many in number together contribute for this kind of body organization, which we call it as cellular grade. Includes the phylum Porifera. The next group of the organisms are called as eumetazoans. So eumetazoans, as you see in the second line of that classification of the slide, you have eumetazoans. So these eumetazoans are the organisms which are said to be true multicellular organisms. Mean to say, throughout their life, the organisms at every stage of their life, otherwise, the organisms are capable of exhibiting locomotion. Students, it includes the organisms with tissue grade, organ grade, and organ system grade of body organization. So tissue means a group of cells which are similar in their structure, function, and origin. So group of cells which are similar are called as tissue in simple terms. Group of tissue which forms a particular structure, we call it as organ. Many organs together contributes for organ system. So all these grades of body organization we find in the eumetazoans. Now, the organisms of eumetazoans are further divided into the two groups of grades which we call it as grade radiata and grade bilateria, the third line of that classification in this slide. So this classification of grades is dependent on the character called as body symmetry. So we are getting introduced with one more new concept called as body symmetry. Symmetry generally refers to the division of the body of an organism into two equal halves or mirror images of either horizontal division or by vertical division. So this body symmetry refers to you divide an organism to get two equal halves or of mirror images, we call it as symmetry. If this symmetry we get, mean to say after the division, if you are able to get two halves of mirror images otherwise with the horizontal plane. So if you are able to divide an animal to get two equal halves by dividing them at a horizontal plane, we call it as radial symmetry. And the group of organisms that exhibits radial symmetry are called as radiated. The second group is called Bilateria group. This group of organisms will exhibit vertical symmetry or sagittal symmetry. So it is a symmetry wherein the symmetrical plane is vertical or sagittal, that will divide the two equal halves of mirror images, one on the right side, the other one on the left side. So we find two mirror images of right and left. Due to the vertical plane of division, we call it as bilaterians. Bi means two, lateral means the sides of right and left. So this division we call it as bilaterians. Students, remember, radiata group of organism includes phylum Cnidaria or Coelenterata, whose body is made up of tissue grade of body organization, and they have the symmetry called radial symmetry. So coelenterates are the group of organisms exhibiting tissue grade of body organization with the radial symmetry, whereas bilaterians are the organisms which will exhibit the organ system grade of body organization with bilateral symmetry. This group of bilaterians are further divided into three sections. This division of bilaterians into three groups or sections is based on the kind of coelom what they have. What is coelom? Coelom generally refers to the body cavity present between the body wall and the inner body organs, or simply we call it as alimentary canal, the digestive canal. So between the wall of digestive canal and the body wall, if you find a space, that space, if it is free or empty, you call it as coelom. This kind of true coelom means to say you have a cavity present between the body wall and the inner alimentary canal, which is formed by the splitting of the mesoderm. So you know, mesoderm is one of the germ layer which is seen during embryonic development. This mesoderm will line the body wall as well as the alimentary canal or the inner organs. So this mesoderm will separate the lining for the body wall and the lining for the alimentary canal, so that a new space is created in between. So that space is called as coelom. If an animal has got the coelom in it, we call it as coelomate or eucoelomate. And to have this, the body of the organism should be bulged. Say suppose, if I compress, we have two surfaces, dorsal and ventral. So we do have lateral surface, the sides, the lateral surfaces. If I could stamp my body, if anything gets down and there are slippers, when we stamp it, what happens? It becomes flat, plate-like or leaf-like. Something like that the body of some organisms are. Dorsoventrally, the body of organism is compressed. So this flattening will bring about loss of the coelom within. So there is no coelom present between the body wall and the inner alimentary canal, which is lined by the mesoderm. It is totally absent. No cavity is seen. Such organisms are called as acoelomates. A, as I said, referring to absence. So absence of coelom. Animals with absence of coelom are called as acoelomate. Students understand, it includes phylum Platyhelminthes, commonly called as flatworms. Are you able to understand? So what are Platyhelminthes group of organisms? They are flatworms. Their flattened nature of the body is due to the compression seen between dorsal and ventral side together. Are you able to understand? We call it as dorsoventrally flattened. The next, in between the acoelomates and coelomate group, we have one more type of coelom which we call it as pseudocoelom. The term pseudo refers to false. It otherwise says coelom is seen, but it is not actual coelom. What is this term referring to? You know that if you want to call a coelom as a true coelom, it should be present between the body wall and the alimentary canal, a cavity, right? A cavity should be present between body wall and the alimentary canal. And this cavity should be separated and lined by mesoderm. Here what happens in pseudocoelomates is that lining of mesoderm is missing. So you can find the outer ectoderm and inner endoderm. Ectoderm inside will have mesoderm, but that mesoderm will not line the region of or not separate the region of alimentary canal. So such type of coelom will be usually filled with either parenchyma cells or some fluid matter. So some fluid matter will be filled in this space. Such coelom, which is not a space filled with the fluid or the parenchymatous matter, is called as pseudocoelom. Students understand, this pseudocoelomata group of animals includes the phylum Nematoda, or also referred earlier as Platyhelminthes, which we call commonly as roundworms. Whereas Eucoelomata group of organisms whose body has got a true coelom seen between the outer body wall and the inner alimentary canal lined with the mesoderm is called eucoelom, and this includes the phylum starting from Annelida to Chordata. So this is about the importance of classification. I want to stop. You know why? I want to stop here because this is the aspect that I wanted to teach you for this particular semester. You know, phylum Platyhelminthes, phylum Nematoda or Platyhelminthes, and phylum Annelida. These are the three phyla that I am going to teach you for this semester. So to introduce these three phyla in the classification of kingdom Animalia, I just wanted to give this gist. Students understand the importance of acoelomates at least now. Acoelomates are the organisms which doesn't have a coelom. They fall under the category called as bilaterians. So they have bilateral symmetry. They will have body organization either of organ or organ system grade of body organization. Then their body is made up of many number of cells or multicellular in nature. So this is about the characteristic features of acoelomates, that includes phylum Platyhelminthes. With this little introduction, we shall start with the concept of general characters related to phylum Platyhelminthes. Students, here, as we know, general characters or general characteristic features refers to the common characters that are seen in this group of organisms of Platyhelminthes. So when I say when I make use of the term phylum, it refers to a group of organisms with the similar characters in them. So this group of organisms that shares the similar characters called the phylum, that is referring here to the Platyhelminthes. So Platyhelminthes includes a group of organisms which will share some characters which are in common. Such characters are called as general characters. So before I introduce the general characters, let us understand what this term Platyhelminthes refers to. It is derived from two Greek terms. Platies refers to flat. Platyhelminthes refers to forms or worms. So flat worms are otherwise technically called with the name Platyhelminthes. So these flat worms are called so as we have understood just now. Their body is dorsoventrally flattened. So dorsally, ventrally, they are flattened to have leaf-like structure or ribbon-like structure, a flat body they have. These animals were made up of multicellular condition. Mean to say, many number of cells it includes. They have soft body. They don't have any protective structures either inside or outside to give the hardness for the body or roughness or toughness for the body. So the body is very soft, very delicate, and it is not divided into many parts, hence are called as unsegmented worms. Coming on to their habitat, where they live. The living style of these animals, when we look at, it includes the organisms which are free living. They live in the environment outside. It includes the class of Turbellaria. Example is Planaria dugicea. Planaria is the common name. Dugicea is the scientific or technical name of that animal. So this organism is an aquatic organism which you find amongst the rocks and floating debris underneath the leaves, etc. So this organism is called as dugicea, commonly called as Planaria. It is a free living organism. Then there are organisms of Platyhelminthes which are said to be parasites. What are parasites? Parasites are the animals which will depend on another organism for their living or sustainability. Here, what happens is that the organism will depend on, the parasitic organism will depend on the other organism for its living. The other organism is called as host generally, and this organism that depends on the host is called parasite. Based on the location where they are, where the organisms of parasites are present, either inside the body of host or outside the body of the host, we have two types of parasites. Number one, ectoparasites. Number two, endoparasites. Ectoparasites, ecto means outside, endo means inside. So ectoparasites are the organism which lives outside the body of the host. Endoparasites are the organism that lives inside the body of the host. Here in the diagram down, you can see a tapeworm attaching to the small intestine of the body of a human. So it is an endoparasite. It lives within the body of the host. Fine, students. During this parasitism, we call it as parasitism. During this parasitism, most of parasites will exhibit a phenomenon called as commensalism. Commensalism refers to a close association between the parasite and the host. So two animals are involved, where one animal will get benefit without harming the body of the other organism. So when two animals are living together, when one gets benefit without harming the other, we call it as commensalism. So there are examples of flatworms that exhibit the commensalism here. The next character is body symmetry. Students, just now we have understood they exhibit bilateral symmetry. So this is the basic body plan of all flatworms. So when you're going to pass an imaginary vertical axis in the mid portion of the body, right from the head region to the toe region of the body, or anterior to posterior region, which we call it a sagittal plane, when you are going to divide the animal with that vertical axis into two equal halves, then you are going to call that symmetry. Two equal halves getting two mirror images of the resultant is called as bilateral symmetry. So all flatworms exhibit bilateral symmetry. Then the body of the organisms, when we look at it, is dorsoventrally flattened. All flatworms shows dorsoventrally flattened body. So hence the body appears to be either leaf-like or ribbon-like or paper-like. It is flat, plate-like it is. Excuse me. The next important feature is the body of this organism, since it is made up of 3 germ layers. They are called as triploblasty. The term triplo refers to 3. Blasto refers to germ layers. The body of the organism is made up of 3 germ layers of outer ectoderm, middle mesoderm and inner endoderm. You can see the picture down here. The body, it is a cross section of the body of the animal of Dugisia, that is planaria, showing the outer ectoderm, middle mesoderm and inner endodermal organs, tissues. So this kind of body arrangement, if an animal has, whose body is developed from all the 3 germ layers, you call it as triploblasty. Then the organisms of flatworms shows both organ and organ system grade of body organization. Mean to say, the body is made up of organs which will perform the individual activities, and organ system grade. Organ system because many organs together work for one physiological function. For example, here in case of digestive system, when we look at, it has got mouth, pharynx, intestine. All these 3 parts together, each one of it is an organ. All the 3 organs together function for the physiology of digestion. Hence we call it as organ system. So we have both organ and organ system grade of body organization. In flatworms, students remember, flatworms are the first animals to develop organ system grade of body organization. Okay, so that's about the body organization of flatworms. Then the next feature. The flatworms show a special phenomenon referred as cephalization. Cephalization generally referred as formation of head. The organisms of flatworms that are referred as free living includes the Dugisia or planaria, shows the presence of a very distinct head. Head, as we see in the diagram there down, it shows a triangular, roughly triangular head with 2 eye spots, black eye spots on its dorsal side, and 2 expanded auricles. They are nothing but ear-like structures, expanded structures, which are sensory structures. Eyes are sensitive to the light, and auricles are sensitive for the chemicals. So both the sensory organs are associated with the head region because inside the head there is a presence of the brain. So brain structure and with its associated sensory organs together will help in the formation of the head. So that is what we call it as cephalization. So formation of head with the sensory organs and brain is called as cephalization, which is seen in the organisms. The next feature is the body covering. Students, when you look at the body covering of these flatworms, it is called generally as epidermis. Epidermis is very soft and it is made up of special kind of cells which are multicellular, but the cells are all fused. Between 2 cells we find cell membrane. You generally find between 2 cells a cell membrane. It is like this, a cell membrane will join 2 cells. This cell membrane between 2 cells is absent. So what happens if for all the group of cells, one beside the other, the arrangement, if you make them to lose the cell membrane, then what happens? The cytoplasm of all the cells will fuse. So the layer appears to be multinucleated. So here, fusion of cells with multinucleated appearance is seen for the epidermis of the organism. And this condition we call it as syncytial epidermis. It's a very special character related to flatworms. SYN, syn refers to fuse, cytos refers to cells. Fusion of cells leading to the multinucleated appearance for the layer of epidermis is called syncytial epidermis. It is also referred to cynocytic epidermis. Cyno refers to fusion, cyto refers to cells. So fusion of cells called as cynocytic or syncytial epidermis. So most of the organisms of flatworms exhibit the syncytial epidermis. In case of free living organisms, you find epidermis showing the cilia, because cilia are the locomotory organs. You can find the same down in the picture. Okay, cilia are extended outside. In case of the parasites, the cilia are absent. Along with the epidermis, you have one more outer covering. So there is one more special cover for the epidermis in case of parasites. And that outer cover is made up of non-cellular layers. It is multi-layer but non-cellular. It is not made up of cells. When it is not made up of cells, you call it as dead cells. Okay, the tissue is dead. So this layer of dead cells which are seen outside the epidermis, which is formed from the epidermis itself. Students, remember, epidermis will form the outer layer of the organisms, which we call it as cuticle. What do we call it as? Cuticle. So cuticle is a proteinaceous outer cover which is non-cellular or made up of dead cells, acts as a protective covering for the organisms of parasites. This cuticle will bring in the protection for the animal against the environment of the host organisms. Okay, so that's about the importance of the cuticle. Students, remember, this cuticle is a flexible layer and also free from that of the minerals. Well, there is absence of exoskeleton and endoskeleton, as I told you earlier. There is nothing supporting the body both inside as well as outside. When there is no support from inside, we call it as endoskeleton. When there is no support for the organism outside, we call it as exoskeleton. Both are absent for the organisms of flatworms. The next important feature is that these organisms of flatworms are called as acoelomates. As I said you, the term acoelomate, where A refers to absence, coelom refers to cavity present between the body wall and the inner organ lined by mesoderm itself, which you can see in the diagram C there. So that pink color cells are the mesoderm cells, blue color marks the ectoderm, whereas yellow color deep inner side represents the endoderm. So between endoderm and ectoderm, that is body wall and the alimentary canal, you have mesoderm. That mesoderm is getting splitted in case of C and forms a cavity. So that is called true coelom. So there is a lining for the alimentary canal by mesoderm. There is also lining beneath the outer ectoderm, that is epidermis, body wall. This is absent, no lining for the endoderm is seen in case of B, diagram B. So when there is no lining, so we call it as pseudocoelom because it will be filled with the fluid. Whereas in diagram A, there is no cavity in the mesoderm at all. So no body cavity, present between the body wall and the inner alimentary canal, and hence it is called acoelomate. So all the group of organisms under the flatworms come in the category of acoelomate. Diagram A representation will be the body organization of these organisms. The next feature is muscular system. Presence of muscles is important for the body activities. Students, remember the muscular system in case of flatworms includes three types of muscles: circular, longitudinal, oblique or diagonal muscles. If the cells are placed in a circles, we call it as circular muscles. If they are placed in verticals, we call it as longitudinal muscle. If they are placed in diagonals, we call it as oblique muscles or diagonal muscles. So position of muscles will indicate three types of muscles here. So these muscles are present below the region of epidermis that you can see in the diagram down here. So you have the structure of epidermis below contains the muscles of three types: circular, longitudinal, oblique or diagonal muscles. Now we will look into the different systems present in, physiological systems present in flatworms. First one to start with is digestive system. Students, every point of general characters what I am explaining you are all very special, related only to the flatworms. So all are very important, remember that. Digestive system is incomplete or absent. So whatever I have shown in different colors indicates the importance of that particular character. Okay, please make a note of it when you are going through the video. Digestive system is called incomplete, which means it is not complete. When I say digestive system, it is called complete when it starts with mouth, ends with anus. When it starts with mouth, ends with anus, I call the system of digestion as complete. Here is the case in flatworms where mouth is present but anus is absent. So I cannot call it as complete digestive system, it is incomplete. So there is incomplete digestive system because of the absence of anus. Then what are all the parts does it include? It has a mouth, it has pharynx, it has intestine. Then what is the function of generally anus? It is the opening through which the undigested waste is ejected out. So the ejection of the undigested waste of the digestive canal takes place. Students, remember, this organisms doesn't have anus, and hence through the mouth itself the ejection process takes place. Are you able to understand? So mouth acts as the opening both for intake of food and outthrowing of the undigested waste. So that's the importance of the organisms. In case of, this kind of arrangement of digestive system you will find in planaria. Whereas in case of tapeworm, another example of flatworm, there the digestive system is totally absent, no alimentary canal. Are you able to understand? So the digestive system is totally absent in case of the organisms of Taenia, that is tapeworm. But in case of planaria, it is called incomplete digestive system. Stomach is absent in all the organisms. Pharynx is present. Pharynx is a short tube-like, cylindrical tube-like muscular structure which is capable of moving out and moving inside the body. When it moves out for feeding process, we call it as proboscis because it looks like the proboscis of an elephant. You can see the proboscis type of pharynx here in the diagram down. where the pharynx has come out of the body. So this protrusible or eversible type of pharynx, we call it as proboscis. When it gets retracted back, when it goes inside, the pharynx will go behind the structure of the mouth. So that's the importance of the pharynx. So actual intake of food is done by the help of this pharynx region. As you know, pharynx will lead into the next important part called as the intestine. Intestine, in case of the organism of flatworms, is said to be branched. There are 3 branches that you find in case of planaria that we are going to understand in detail when we take up the digestive system in type study of planaria. So remember, intestine is branched into 3. And each of these branches further subdivided, sub-branchings are seen. So branch type of digestive tract or gut is another characteristic feature related to the phylum Platyhelminthes. So that's about the importance of the digestive system. And the respiratory system is absent because it doesn't involve many of the organs. It directly takes place through the body surface by diffusion process. Circulatory system is totally absent in case of flatworms. The next important feature is the excretory system. Excretion refers to removal of unwanted waste of the body after the metabolism. You know that the food what we intake into the digestive canal will get broken with the help of enzymes. So this digestion, we call it as extracellular digestion because it is occurring outside the cells but within the alimentary canal, right? So we have extracellular digestion inside the alimentary canal. So similar type of digestion you can also find in these animals. So intestine will pour out the enzymes and breaks the food into digested food, okay, accepted food. So that food will be absorbed by the next group of cells called mesenchyme cells. Mesoderm is absent, mesenchyme cells are there, those cells will absorb. These mesenchyme cells will distribute the food to the neighboring cells by the simple process of diffusion itself. So after it takes the food, every mesenchyme cells will further break the food into the carbon dioxide, ammonia, fatty acids, etc. and the released energy is utilized. So the food after its breakage inside every cell, we call the process as intracellular digestion. Mean to say within cells the cellular digestion is taking place. That will lead to the formation of water, ammonia, carbon dioxide and some fatty acids. Students, remember these products are called as excretory products. Water is the excretory product, ammonia is the excretory product, carbon dioxide is the excretory product and few fatty acids also. And these cannot remain within the cell because the cell will be poisoned, it will die. Hence, there is a system involved to remove this excretory waste. So water is removed, carbon dioxide is removed, ammonia is removed, fatty acids are removed by using a system which we call it as excretory system. Like how our kidneys will function, the urinary system will function to remove all the excretory waste from our body. Similar way you find the excretory system in flatworms also. Here special cells are there to take care of the function of the excretion. They are called as flame cells or flame bulbs. They are also called as solenocytes or protonephridia. They are all the synonyms, same names. What are these cells? Can you see a diagram down separately? It has got protoplasmic extensions which will absorb that waste, excretory waste. It is a flame cell. It will take inside and this cell has got a cavity within. We call it as intracellular space or cavity. And this cavity has got number of cilia, row of ciliar flagella in it. These cilia will start moving together, all moves together. When they all start moving together, it looks like the flickering flame. You could have seen the candle, when the air blows on the flame of the candle, it starts moving, right? Something like that, this cilia will also move. Hence, they are called as flame cells. Are you able to understand? Here, this movement of the cilia will create a hydrostatic pressure, a pressure for the water and all the waste to enter into the cavity of the flame cells. From there, it is connected to many number of excretory ducts, and those excretory ducts on the other side towards the dorsal surface will have minute openings at the margins. They are called as dorsal pores or excretory pores or nephridiopores. There are different names that we give for the openings. Through those openings, the waste will be thrown out. So this is a very special system that you find in case of the organisms of flatworms. Students, remember which are the excretory units for the excretory process in case of flatworms? It is the flame cells or solenocytes or protonephridia. Coming on to the nervous system of the organism is very special again. I have mentioned two diagrams depicting the importance of the nervous system. It has got inverted V-shaped brain, which is made up of two lobes. Two lobes of brain are seen, which is of inverted V shape like this, from which arises many number of branches in the head region, some moving front, some moving lateral sides, giving it sensory activity. I said it is, the head is associated with the eyes and the auricles. So these nerves will connect some with the eyes, some with the auricles. They are chemosensitive, chemoreceptor sensory activities these auricles have got. So that's about the brain. From brain, two lobes of brain, each of the lobe, there arises a long longitudinal nerve made up of many number of neurons. They are called as longitudinal nerve cords. What you call it as longitudinal nerve cords. You have brain. The brain at its down or posterior side shows the presence of two elongated nerve cords. The two nerve cords are called one right, the other one left. So right and left nerve cords are there. These two nerve cords are joined transversely, horizontally, by means of one more group of nerves, which we call it as transverse nerves. So we have brain, the longitudinal nerve cords, and transverse nerves. At the junction of the transverse nerve with that of the longitudinal nerve cord, this junction towards outside shows another branch that moves, which we call it as lateral nerves or peripheral nerves. So overall, the nervous system alone, when you look at it, is present towards the ventral side of the body of the animal and looks like that of a ladder. And hence, the nervous system of the organisms of flatworms is generally called as ladder type or ladder like fashion nervous system. This is another special feature related to flatworms. Then coming on to the reproductive system. This is again a special feature related to flatworms. Students, remember the organisms of flatworms are said to be monoecious or hermaphrodites. Mono means single, echio refers to home. So you find the organism, a single organism possesses both the male and female reproductive organs in them, or gonads in them. Such organisms are also called as bisexual organisms or hermaphrodites. Hermaphrodites refers to organisms whose body possess both male and female reproductive gonads. Sometimes the male reproductive gonads called the testes will have maturation first. Such conditions is called a proto-androus type. Proto means first, andro refers to testes. So maturation of testes will occur first. We call it as proto-androus type. In another group of organisms, we will find proto-gyne type. Gyno refers to female reproductive system. So whatever it is, both the male and female reproductive organs called gonads are present in the same animal. So that's another special feature related to the organism. Now, the organisms of flatworms show reproduction and produces the eggs. Eggs will have the yolk, the reserved food materials, which is covered over by hard shell. Say suppose the organism has got unfavorable conditions where it is not getting the proper food to eat, no nutrition. In such condition, the organisms will stop reproducing and start eating away all the reproductive organs. So there is slowly disappearance of the gonads because it is fed by the organism itself. During onset of favorable condition, when it gets the food of bulky quantity, then it starts reproducing the last parts. Are you able to understand? So during the unfavorable condition or famine condition, it starves. During starvation, it will eat away all the reproductive organs. During onset of favorable condition, it will reform the last parts, which we call it as power of regeneration. So it's very standard, which is very high, seen in case of planaria, power of regeneration. Since it's a free living organism, lives inside the water, when it undergoes starvation, it shows this kind of phenomenon in it. Well, the fertilization, fusion of male and female gametes occurs inside the body of the organisms, hence it is called internal fertilization. After fertilization, we get the zygote. The zygote may directly develop to form the complete organism or sometimes may form the organisms called as larvae. If larvae are formed, which is commonly seen in parasitic organisms, we call the development as indirect development. Students, remember, in the life cycle of an organism, if you find the mother organism forming the larval stages, then the development is called indirect development, which is commonly seen in parasites. Whereas in case of free living organism, the development is said to be direct. Mean to say, the mother organism directly give birth to the young ones. Here is a picture down showing indirect development related to the liver fluke or fasciola hepatica. So with that we are completing the general characters related to phylum Platyhelminthes. Coming on to the classification of Platyhelminthes. Majorly there are three classes seen for the phylum Platyhelminthes, namely Turbellaria, Trematoda and Cestoda. Turbellaria includes the organisms that are free living and aquatic. It includes the example of Planaria, which is scientifically called with the name Dugesia tigrina. That is the scientific name of Planaria. Trematoda are the class of organisms which includes endoparasites with only suckers but no hooks. They will have only sucking kind of organs, but parasites. Example, liver fluke, scientific name of it is Fasciola hepatica. The third group of organisms or class of organisms are called Cestoda group. It includes parasites with both hooks and suckers. Example is your tapeworm. Scientific name of this animal is Taenia solium. So with this we are completing the organisms of flatworms related to general characters as well as classification with examples. Well students, let us test the understanding ability of us. How much exactly you have followed the concept of phylum Platyhelminthes-General Characters and classification. Here are few multiple choice questions. Let us see how well you are going to answer. Question 1. Flatworms are, how is their body is? Diploblastic, triploblastic, monoblastic and none of it. So you know they are all triploblastic because their body is made up of 3 germ layers. So answer is B. Second question. Coelom in flatworms is very well developed, poorly developed, schizocilous or absent. It is absent. Answer is D. Question 3. In which is free-living freshwater flatworm? Planaria. Good. A. In Platyhelminthes, nerve cuts are present, nerve cuts are absent, nerve nets are present, nerve nets are absent. Which is the right answer? Nerve cuts are present. A. Animals belonging to Platyhelminthes are also called as flatworms because their head is flat, they have dorsoventrally compressed body, they creep over the surface and their alimentary canal is flattened. The right answer is B. The body is dorsoventrally compressed. Next MCQ. Liver fluke belongs to the class Cestoda, Tabularia, Trematoda, Nematoda. So C. Trematoda. So what have we learned from today's class? We have understood the general characters of phylum Platyhelminthes and how their characters or features in them helps them to sustain in the environment where they live. Students, for the reference, the web references are Wikipedia and Britannica.com, and book references you can follow Invertebrate Zoology by P.S. Verma or Modern Textbook of Zoology by Kotpal. Thank you all. Wish you all very good day. Students, if you have any doubts and queries or comments, please post to my personal WhatsApp number. Thank you all. Thank you all.